morning and welcome to our fall premiere 2022 of Wealth Building Wednesday. Wealth Building Wednesday is an opportunity for you, and yes, you to join in all the greatness that TRHT Selma has to offer. TRHT Selma is a collaboration between the Black Belt Community Foundation and the Selma Center for Nonviolence. We're funded by the Kellogg Foundation to help do exactly what we hope to do through this show, and that is to build, build, build. We are bridging divides by telling the truth, providing racial healing, and making sure that we are working towards transformation in our community. So, Wealth Building Wednesday, how we are transforming the community is we spend 30 minutes every single Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we are rebroadcast on WBFZ 105 at 1:30 on the same day. Wealth Building Wednesday focuses on dropping nuggets, right? We tell the truth about how we can work together to build wealth. And I am so excited to have our guest today, Mr. Roosevelt Johnson, who is an entrepreneur, and I call him a serial entrepreneur. So many of us wear that moniker and proudly wear that because, listen, being an entrepreneur is a journey. And when you're 18 and selling t-shirts, and when you're 25 and opening nightclubs, and when you're 35 and, the serial entrepreneur kicks in. It's the passion. It's the desire to help create economic change for ourselves and our families that causes folks to jump into this thing called small business. So welcome, Mr. Johnson, to Wealth Building Wednesday.
Hello. Thank you, Ms. Lydia Chapman, for having me. I greatly appreciate this opportunity to be able to share with you. Of course, you know my journey, but just to be able to share with other people, I'm very appreciative.
Absolutely. TRHTT, truth. That's something that a lot of us we have forgotten about, right? And it's so important that we dive into the truth and that we face it, right? Face it head on. And today's episode, we're actually going to do that. We do want to shed some light, listen for folks who have questions. So whether you're tuning in because you're nosy or whether you're tuning in because you want to learn so that you can actually be able to align yourself and get yourself ready to be a successful small business owner. We welcome you and we encourage you to share this video. This is going to be a very candid conversation with Mr. Johnson this morning. So I wanted to first talk about something. I know when we talked offline, you said, oh my goodness, I got so many calls when the fences went up. So for those of you all who are unfamiliar, Mr. Johnson is the owner, because Rojo still exists, right? Rojo Seafood Express. And so there was a brick and mortar location here in Selma, in the historic city of Selma, Alabama. But unfortunately, that brick and mortar had to close. And so a few weeks ago, some fences went up. And again, that T word, truth, it's a curse word to some folks. Listen, okay? But what we want to do is make sure that we're telling the truth about the situation. So, Mr. Johnson, what's up with the fences? Let the people know the truth.
Well, honestly, the fences went up after we decided to close the location because of lack of sales, lack of customer patronage. Of course, a business on the level that we did Rojo's cannot operate under 25,000 weekly in sales.
Okay.
We weren't getting anywhere near that in sales. And so, what you got to understand is when you open a brick and mortar, you have levels of expenses. You have, your sales tax, you got your payroll tax, you have your insurances, your general liability, you have your workers' compensation, you have your, you got, your rental, you have, all your utilities, you got your food costs, you have your payroll.
So now listen, you jumping ahead. You are
I'm
talking.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to
Yes.
explain why the fences went up, baby.
Okay. Okay.
You know, you know. So when you don't have those sales, you got to make a conscious decision
Yeah.
to exit. And so we had to do that. And the landlord or the investment company that owns the property
Okay.
decided to protect it in that way because we had spent so much money collectively together to um, anybody know the old Pizza Hut? It don't look nothing like that now. That took,
At all.
that was a six-figure move,
Mm-hmm.
and that was because we wanted something nice for Selma, somewhere where people could actually come sit down, enjoy a nice atmosphere. That was our goal, and so we spared no expense in that area. So,
And you truly didn't. Beautiful facility, new floors. I mean, everything, brand new kitchen, all of that. So, we appreciate what you attempted to do. And I know that it's coming back around, right? But for the record, what he said was the fences are to protect the property, right?
correct.
So let's be clear and be honest about what's happening. Okay. So now you're right. We've had many discussions about entrepreneurship, small business ownership. We've known each other for years,
Yes,
um,
ma'am.
and so I want you to kind of share, because this is an opportunity for us to talk about the entrepreneurial journey.
Mhm.
Kind of share with the folks who are tuned in and listening. What kinds of businesses have you managed or operated in your years as a small business owner? Like, describe your entrepreneurial journey.
Good. I started out in a nightclub. Good.
Hey, look.
Dollar Bill.
Come on, Chi Town.
Listen, I started out promoting parties, which led to me owning a nightclub. I've owned two nightclubs in my life.
Mhm.
But I've always um, had a fulfillment in wanting to call my own shots, wanting to make my own money, and also want to create avenues for other people
Okay.
to make money. And so from the nightclub, I've always been in management to some capacity, but the bulk of my management experience has been in fast food casual dining. So I worked for several brands as a GM, district manager. Management is my thing. That's what I do. We tend to turn operations around, that are really badly managed. We turn them around. That's what our expertise is, turning situations around. So, but that's it. Uh,
Okay. Okay. So I want to just really quickly talk about this nightclub thing. So when you think about your time in the nightclub industry, what would you consider one of the biggest things that people now don't really think about when they're wanting to open a nightclub?
the things that are important, like general liability, like
Mm.
what if something happens at your club? Guess what? If someone gets shot at your club, if some incident happens, they're coming to look for the owner of the club. You're liable for the 100, 200 people that are in your club partying, doing all that. Any incidents that occur, they're coming for you.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn, that's one of the things that we just want to open a club. We just want to make that money at the door, baby. And we want to get this money, and we don't care about the security. We don't have adequate. That's another thing. You have to spend your money in security. And you cannot have them backyard security people that from Joe Blow off the corner. You can't
Hmm.
have him at your door because he know everybody in the community. He gonna let them weapons in there. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn all those things from experiences. Not saying that we didn't go without incident. Yes, we had some incidents, but I learned how to tighten things up, and I also learned that I was liable for those people. So I had like $2 million in insurance to
Right.
cover me. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? From those types of incidents. I had one or two, Where if I hadn't had that safety blanket in place, they would have taken everything I own.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just want to, be clear. So if you got a club out there right now, please have your business together because them lawyers ain't playing.
They're not. And I also have a couple of years of being in the nightclub industry. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people don't necessarily do their research
Right.
because, you see all the cars, when you
Mhm.
pass by at night, or you see all
Mhm.
what you think is a lot of people and there's this
Right.
money that's being generated. But when you're talking about opening something like a nightclub, right? Think about, let's just take the city of Selma. We have
Hmm.
about 17,000 people. About 5,000 of those folks are kids, right? So they're not coming to the nightclub.
Right.
Then you got another, let's just say 10,000 folks who aren't going to be the folks who go out every single weekend because it's your repeat customer, right?
Right.
It's repeat
You're right.
customers that a nightclub, a restaurant, McDonald's lives and dies by repeat customers.
That's
If
right.
you get bad fries 5 times,
That's
man,
right.
bump McDonald's, them
That's
fries don't
right.
taste the same. You
That's
better
right.
ask Coca-Cola when they did that new Coke.
That's right.
Nobody
They had
want
to go,
that.
they had to go back to the original.
Exactly. So when you think about opening a nightclub or any business, like assessing your market, if you're down to like 2,000 people, how many other places for this demographic are there already? Right.
Right.
And are these 2,000 folks going to be repetitive customers? Are you
Right.
narrowing it down and saying that, oh, well, I only want 35 and up, or I only want 21 to 30, right?
Right.
Be prepared, right? You got to do your research. So, yeah, it's a lot to learn and a lot to assess. So, now what would you say have been your greatest triumphs as a small business owner?
Being able to create something that people love.
Yeah.
When we started, and it's so crazy because you are a part of me starting my first selling my first plate. You were one of the first persons to come and buy a plate from me.
Yeah.
So starting out of my house, creating something that people wanted weekly. And creating sauces and butter sauces and stuff like that that people like and call me to this day about. Doing that was one of the things that was so fulfilling for me. Because of course you like your own stuff, but when you find out other folk like your stuff,
Right.
it's on another level. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so, and then when we connected with young lady named Jaleesa McRae with our sauces, we went. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know this, but we were shipping sauce all over the country before we opened the brick and mortar. We were
Wow.
sauce every day. We were shipping 15 to 20 boxes of sauce out of my house to people across the country because of Jaleesa McRae.
Wow.
We cooked for her one day on live and it went viral. And people just started hitting us up for the sauce, hitting us up for the sauce, and we took off, you know. But my biggest issue, I shouldn't have never stopped my sauce business. It was guaranteed. It was guaranteed money, but and this, I need y'all to hear me when I tell y'all this. I got distracted by the brick and mortar
Mm.
because it was something that I always wanted to do. What was working, we're talking about, I was making about $3,000 a week in
Mm-hmm.
salt sales. I stopped it to take on the brick and mortar.
Wow.
That was my biggest mistake because now to get back into the sauce business to reestablish myself is going to cost money again to
Mm-hmm.
even do that. So I'm starting back over, with it, but that's one. So when you got something working, you got to stick with that. You got to keep it rolling. That was one of my biggest issues. And I fought myself for that because all my life, like the list, all my life, I wanted to own a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
when I seen the opportunity, I took it and I ran with it. So
So now I do want to reiterate what I just heard you say, and that's really just keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Eric Nettles out of Montgomery has hashtag keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, when you have something that works, y'all keep pushing. Like this episode of Wealth Building Wednesday, like I really literally when I reached out to Roosevelt was like, I can't think of a better person to bring back the live episodes of Wealth Building Wednesday with, because this is an important conversation to have. Like we're going to be as candid as possible, be as
Mm-hmm.
honest with folks, because when we know the truth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now it's up to us as individuals who may be new to small business ownership, may be contemplating some things. Let's think about, what he's gone through and some other folks that I have lined up to be guests. Let's think about what people have gone through, the
Right.
triumphs, the failures, the things that work, the things that don't work. And at the end of the day, everybody is saying that keep pushing, just keep doing what works.
That's right.
So now when you think about your most recent venture, which is Rojo's, which still has a food truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you think about that, and the fact that you invested in bringing a new restaurant into Selma, what would you say was your biggest triumph? I know you say that you always wanted to have that brick and mortar, but like when you started putting, paint on the walls, when you started selecting the flooring and looking at the kitchen equipment and comparing things, like what was your greatest, like, man, like this surreal moment of, geez, this is actually happening.
Man, you taking me back, bro. Like I remember when we did the lease, God had a way where it was just so easy. When we got in the restaurant, it was, very destroyed, just not taken care of. And so once we signed the lease and we started the process of tearing everything out and actually being able to start, it's a joy to open a restaurant, but I was able to open a restaurant and a startup at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything from creation, from how the floors look to how everything came from here, from my mind of what I always wanted it to look like, and so because my mindset was I want to scale these restaurants across the state.
Okay.
I want them to look like McDonald's. McDonald's has, you see them golden arches everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that was my mindset. I want to conceptually do this the same way. That way, even from the recipes, we got recipe books, how to cook, the cook times, like all of that stuff in the
Okay.
startup. That was the exciting thing for me to be able to create the formula, for Rojo.
Yeah.
That was the thing that really that was fun.
You know what? Um, I tell my colleagues all the time. I watch this show. I think it's on the History Channel about the businesses that built America.
Hmm.
And I can fondly remember a couple of episodes because they break down things like how businesses like McDonald's, right, and
Hmm.
McDonald Brothers and Burger King and where that came from, the flame broil versus,
Hmm.
um, and to hear you talk about that, I'm like, we've got to learn how to encourage one another
Hmm.
and to know that we can do great things still, right? Even though they say that there's nothing new created under the sun anymore, we can
Right.
still do great things, and we can
That's right.
truly, as we can encourage one another to do those great things. Because I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe in 10 years, 20 years, this is going to be an episode, right, of on the
Hmm.
History Channel, as far as
Hmm.
like changing the dynamics of what opening a restaurant or opening a seafood restaurant, what that looks like. So now when it comes to challenges, because that's where the rubber hits the road, right?
Right.
You've done what you feel like is due diligence, but when we think about the challenges that may be ahead, um what would you describe as your greatest, I'll say, challenges, because I don't want to limit it to just one thing.
So I would say, for me, I had a couple of people when I got into some tight spots, I just needed to talk to about what I was trying to execute. You know, um, I went and had a conversation. Rest in peace to Mr. Earl Travis. Been doing it 20 plus years. Asked him what was his formula to longevity.
Mm-hmm.
How was he able to maintain through all of that? Over the years. He gave me some great nuggets.
Yeah.
But I think the community has to embrace entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs.
Mm.
Gotta be able to, give them, even that time. It's just that a lot of times don't have to do with money. It's just a sit down conversation. Something may be said that can help that future entrepreneur. So I think we need more of that. More of that needs to happen. But my second challenge was financial. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, in your business plan, it tells you to do the SWOT analysis and all these different things,
Right.
but it doesn't tell you what to do when your operating capital is gone, and who to go to get that, and how to keep records, and how to make sure you get an accountant
Mm.
to handle the different paperworks that the banks are going to need when you need money. The bank just ain't going to give you money because you got a business. They
Right.
want to know behind the scenes how much you deposited every day. How much are you losing? How much are you doing in food costs, labor? Can you afford this money you're trying to ask me for? So I couldn't, and I'm just being honest because I'm on Lydia's show, and I'm gonna be honest today. I did not have my paperwork together where I was able to walk in any business, any bank, and say, I need $100,000.
Yeah.
Like they, I actually did try
Mm-hmm.
to go into some banks, and I was turned down. Like, listen, brother, we want to help you, but we can't see your business on paper. Like, we can't see, you have no financial statements, no financial records. You have nothing that can show me that I can take to my board of directors and say, I want to approve this gentleman for this loan. So that's part of my closure, part of the reason why I closed, because I could not get even your high interest loans. They still want to go into your bank account and actually see how many deposits you're making a day.
Oh, wow.
They'll give you the money, but they want to see, do you have any NSFs?
Mm-hmm.
How many deposits you're making a day?
Mm-hmm.
How much money you're generating by the week? In order to leverage, you can get that loan, but they're gonna want to go deep into your business financials in order to get that, and then you're gonna have to pay them every day.
Right.
It's like,
So
two.
now,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, there are a couple of things that I want to make sure that folks who are logged in and watching live or listening to the show um, truly understand. One thing, and we actually have had in the past guests from various accounting agencies and loan institutions, banking institutions, to talk about the importance of bookkeeping, right? And we actually have an accountant coming up, I'm sorry, as a guest. So, accounting, I cannot stress enough, just as much as it is an investment to have someone who truly knows what they're doing as far as like marketing and things like that. An accountant is even more important. Right, because an accountant is going to be able to account for, and an accountant is not the same as, and I've had folks ask me this question, well, I can go to so and so, they do taxes. That is not
No,
the same. A
no,
person who prepares taxes can sometimes, like most accountants can, and they should be able to prepare your taxes. But a business that is set up solely to do income tax returns is not the same as having an actual accountant, because an accountant is actually going to help you have that relationship with the State Department of Revenue. They're going to help you have that proper relationship with your banking institutions. And
Right.
so the paperwork that you're describing is going to be in order.
That's right.
And so that when you walk into a funding institution and say, hey, listen, I need $100,000, then you have everything that you need to document what you've been doing. It is a necessary, yes, we have a viewer that's saying it is a necessary investment. Like that is literally
Yeah,
like building into your budget. Like don't
it
think that
is.
you and QuickBooks are gonna get along, y'all gonna be
That,
BFFs. You
that ain't working.
right,
QuickBooks ain't working. You
right.
listen, listen,
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah.
I went into a bank. Listen. I think I got the fast tax person in the world. I love her. She gave me my tax documents. I took them to the bank with all my numbers and all. This man said to me, he said, "Listen, I come and eat Rojos almost every other day." He said, "But brother, I can't give you this long. You don't have what I need."
Wow.
He said, "You don't have what I need." He said, "I need you. You got to go get you a accountant, man,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to do a forensic audit on your books."
Yeah.
And then you come back to me with your P&L, and I can look at some things, and I can see your banking statements, and I can see this money moving. That way,
Mm-hmm.
I can go to the board of directors, because most banks they gotta shoot it up. Your local loan officer don't make the decision anymore. It,
Right.
it's the corporate people who make the decisions on the money now. And he could not. He said your file is incomplete. What they're asking for, you can't give me.
And so having an accountant is a very necessary investment. I also heard you talk about the movement, right? Because you found success really quickly, right? And
Yeah,
transitioning from cooking at home, which we have a lot of folks that do that, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then you had an investor who, well, no, you were doing the sauces, and then you had an investor who could get you into brick and mortar. So things just started rolling really, really quickly. Share with the viewers, share with the listeners what it's like, or what you feel like you could have done differently when it comes to timing. Like, do you think that you should have slowed down? Do you think that there were some things that could have been done differently around the timing of everything? I know you talked about the sauces and you would have kept going. Keep
Mhm,
pushing, y'all, right?
mhm.
But are there some things that you feel like you could have done differently as far as timing?
Girl, I wanted my restaurant real bad, so I just listen. I had some things up before the Lord, like 6 years. Like, Lord, you listen. You say it. Now you were
Yeah.
gonna give me this, and when it started happening, I didn't think.
Mm,
When I should have pumped my brakes on the brick and mortar,
okay.
I should have never entered into that. I should have kept focusing on, because in my mind I had already said, well, I worked hard to pay for my food truck. We did
Mm-hmm.
that. And so the plan on paper, and I can show you this whenever I see you, was to run the food truck for 2 years,
Yeah.
then go to the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
I would have had enough money to do all of that.
Yeah.
But instead, I got sidetracked by, the investor call and said, "Hey, man, I got this money. I've been watching you. I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Put me a budget together and let's get it done." So
Wow.
I just, hey, I'm gonna go. I got somebody got this money. I'm finna go do this, you
Right.
know. And I didn't get the proper, because on this, with me working for brands, they have corporate offices that do all of that work,
Right.
procurement, and all of these different things. HR, procurement. They have these divisions that do all of that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I didn't. So I didn't have the correct training in those areas to be able to do that stuff. So yeah, I mean that's what I would have I shouldn't have ever opened that restaurant. I should have stuck to the plan. And the plan,
So
yeah.
So having a plan, I know that folks have heard it before. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your plan was could have what were your steps to success? Because one of the things that I really and I keep pouring into you is that you're going to get this back, right?
Right.
That there is going to be another opportunity, and there are going to be opportunities for all of our viewers who are interested
Yeah.
in opening restaurants, because the thing that is most frustrating, especially in a small community, is that you feel the pushback from people, and I don't want to call it hate, but the negative energy that folks can
Mhm.
put out, right? And that impacts us. But there's room enough in this market for everybody. Y'all, Selma and the surrounding communities, because there would be no Selma without Marion, the things that happened historically in Marion that led to Bloody
Right.
Sunday, and the
Right.
importance of Selma, and the folks who were already on the ground. Lord, rest in peace to Amelia Boynton. The work that was being done. People
Right.
come from all over the world to Selma every single day, and they
That's
bring
right.
money with them. There is
That's right.
room enough in this market for every single person who wants to start a business and pour into our community in a greater way. So
That's
I'm
right.
truly appreciative of what you did, and the fact that you're willing to share your journey with folks, because it takes a lot of guts, right? It takes courage to tell folks the truth about some decisions and some mistakes that you may have made. Now, I know that we have literally gone overtime by 2 minutes, and our partners at WBFZ are probably going to cut at this point. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
just turn it into 2 episodes. If you have time, I'd love for us to continue the conversation just for a few more minutes. Thank you to everyone who is tuned in, listening live, watching live to Wealth Building Wednesday. We are talking to Mr. Roosevelt Johnson, who is an entrepreneur. He has been an entrepreneur for well over a decade. What, almost 2 decades now. Yeah, man. Look, somebody getting old. It ain't.
You're doing the wrong thing. Now you're doing the wrong thing.
Listen, look.
You're doing the wrong thing. Don't do that.
But the important thing is that we're talking to Mr. Johnson about his journey in entrepreneurship, in hopes that some of the things that he's learned over the years, and especially more recently, will be able to help walk people through in a different way. We see restaurants, Lord God, in our community, buildings that should have been restaurants by now, that have gone stagnant, likely because there was not due diligence when it comes to research. Y'all, real estate is important, and knowing where properties sit is important. If a covenant exists on a piece of property that says, let's say, you can't sell alcohol, you can't open a restaurant that serves alcohol on that property. I don't
Not
I
gonna
don't
happen.
care how the ownership has transitioned. So doing our research, making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable when it comes to getting an accountant, right? That's your new BFF. Like, we have voices in the street, but the voice we've got to listen to is the accountant, because that person is going to help make sure that we remain in the black. That means that your books are balanced and good, that you're making money, right? You also talked about, because you talked about funding and the paperwork that is necessary to make sure that you are able to access additional funding, like from banks and credit unions. Wanted to also reach back and talk about communication, because you did talk about, when I posed the question around challenges and folks, and word of mouth, right? Word of mouth is the most valuable form of advertisement that any business or
Yes,
person
ma'am.
can have, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We build reputations, whether good, bad, and ugly, based on how people communicate to one another about us. You cannot pay for word of mouth.
That's
Um,
right.
Now, what they call influencers now, that's
Mm-hmm.
a that's kind of like word of mouth, but word of mouth is, girl, well, did you try the so and so? Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
baby, she makes a good cake. And
Mm-hmm.
now when that person is having an event or something, who was that lady you said made that good cake? I heard a lady talking about this woman who makes good cakes, right?
Right. Right.
So that's word of mouth advertising. The same thing though, getting on social media. I want to go back to this because when we have become so accustomed to playing each other to the left on social
Right,
media,
right, right,
it makes it so easy for us to get behind a computer and make comments about things as opposed to saying, honey, be the Karen, put your Karen hat on. It's like, may I speak to your manager, please? Right. And ask that question of the manager.
right,
Being able to have the conversation either with the business owner or the person who is providing the service for you. So your waiter or waitress or bartender, to say, hey, is everything okay? Are you having a good day?
right,
And
right,
not in an offensive way, not like, what's wrong with you? Right?
right, right.
Because
Lydia,
we all have. Mhm.
right. I've had several instances where, Facebook posts, of people that I know personally,
Yeah.
have gotten on Facebook and have said things and, you know, things of that nature. When half of them know my phone number, they know how to reach me. And anybody that knows me know that if you have an issue with any place, customer service, whatever it is, all you got to do is contact me. I want to deal with that head on, right from the beginning. Let's get it done. What can I do to make you happy? I apologize. I'm gonna be very apologetic. I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna thank you. And I'm gonna fix your stuff. I'm gonna make sure you're right.
Yeah.
But it's more gratifying to them to put it on Facebook, put the picture on there, and try to kill your business. That's the intent. The intent of them is not to make people aware, but to do something to make people who have wanted to try you not try.
Mm.
So that's what they do. They want to do that to make people, you talk about, oh man, Rojo's the bomb. It's good, man. You ever tried it? I don't know about that. I seen that post about it. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to even go there. That's what social media does. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, we got to stop a lot of that. If I got a problem with McDonald's, Burger King, any of them, I'm going to go talk to the GM. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to put no picture on Facebook. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go talk to the GM, and I'm not going to wait till 2 days later to go talk to the GM. I'm going to talk to him that night. I'm going to go call. If he's not there, I'm going to contact him the next day. Hey, listen, was at your establishment. This is what happened. They gonna fix it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? They're gonna fix it. You know what I'm saying? So, we gotta, especially when it's a small business owner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's we working extra hard to make sure everything's right because we can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
Every day we trying to get it, so we can't afford to lose.
Right.
You put that post up, you potential customers who wanted to come are gonna be skeptical about coming because people under your post is agreeing with what you're saying, but I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna stop. Good, I get
Well,
passionate about that. Let me stop.
but it's important though that we talk about that because it's not just about Rojos. This is about the culture that we've created
It
in our
is.
community where it's okay to do that, right?
Yeah,
And we've got to do some things differently. If we want to see Selma grow, if we want to see Selma rise, if we want to see the black belt, because see, when Selma steps it up, then that means Marion gets more visitors. That means that Camden gets more visitors. That means Linden gets more visitors. So regardless
right.
of your location, even in the state of Alabama, Selma is one of the top 3 destinations when people are scheduling their trips, planning trips to Alabama.
So,
Selma
so
is
right.
one of the top 3 destinations. That's not according to Lydia. That is according to the Alabama Department of Tourism.
That's
That
right.
Selma literally, it's on the cover of major magazines. It's on the cover of books that have been published by the director of state tourism. So we have to understand the role that we as individuals play in the success of our community and the small business owners that we're connected to or not connected to, right?
Right.
If you
Right.
don't want to patronize anymore, there are several businesses that I don't patronize, but I'm not going on social media to
That's
talk
right.
about it,
That's
right?
right.
That's just not, it's just not what I do. I can't
Right.
go, spend my money where people who look like me are not truly welcome.
Right. That's
So
right. That's right.
So that's just not a thing that I do, but I'm not broadcasting. Well, I just said it, but I'm not posting about it every single day, right?
Right.
On social media. So now what are some of your greatest disappointments when it comes to what you have yet to do? I'll say it like that, what you have yet to accomplish as a small business owner.
I want to say, like, okay, I don't know if this is part of. I think it is. So I made when I was at my house working out of
Mm-hmm.
my house. I made more money
Mm-hmm.
in my house than I did in the brick and mortar.
Wow.
And I'm trying to figure out why is that. I went on Friday and Saturday. I only sold plates 2 days a week. On Friday and Saturday, I made more money on those 2 days than I did the entire time I was at my brick and mortar.
Wow.
And I'm being honest with you guys, the most money I ever made in a week at the brick and mortar was $12,000. But I would make half of that in 2 days at my house.
Wow.
We gotta support even the Huddle House coming into town. It was a wow factor for a month. Now
Mm-hmm.
they struggling. They're struggling. It's because we don't support the restaurants. It's not getting that support. And I get, it may be, people want to go out of town and eat or whatever. I get that part. I do it too. Me and my wife, we do it too. But at the same time, these restaurants need your support here in the city. They they don't survive without people coming to support them. It just don't, so that was my disappointment. My disappointment was, and in my mind, I was thinking, man, if they coming to me on Friday and Saturday like this, man, when I open my business on the main strip of the city,
Mm-hmm.
I know we gonna win. That didn't happen.
So what about a disappointment maybe in decisions that you made? Um
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You know, there are a lot of decisions that I made that I thought were the right decisions. That if I had to do again, I would definitely listen to some people who I talked to
mhm.
that said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And I'm thinking, well, I know this work. I hear what they saying, but I know it is working. You know,
Mhm.
and you got to understand that people who talk to like that, they want you to win. They want to give you information that they didn't think would be, a positive on what you're doing because they
Right.
believe in you first and foremost. So you can't be big headed and pig headed and don't listen to people who come to you and say, "Hey, man, I love what you're doing, but won't you try this?" You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? You got to have an open mind, when it comes to that kind of stuff. You may have created it, but it needs some fine tuning. You got to be open to the fine tuning part of that. And
I'm
that
so
was probably,
glad you said that.
yeah.
There's a show on middle of the night, and it literally this happened last night. So perhaps it was in preparation for this conversation. Billion Dollar Idea. There's a show called Billion Dollar Idea, and it's where the guy who owns BAI the drinks,
Hmm.
um, he's working with his expert team to go from like I think 15 small business owners down to one person that he's going to invest in and help them get to $1 billion.
Hmm.
And so the big he on yeah, I guess it aired yesterday at some point, but I called it like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Woke up, um, and he said that the biggest challenge that he's seen with small business owners, especially those who have created their own unique product, is that they don't want to change. So the vision is there, but when help is offered, and last night they were actually talking about logos, and he was down to 3 entrepreneurs, and there was only really one who gave him any real pushback. about, and this man is the man who he called in to do the logo renovations or the new logos. Literally was a man who has worked with Fortune 500 companies. Like he's a beast when it comes to branding and making sure that you have a product that once it's placed on the shelves, people can recognize it, right? Um, it's so fascinating that you said that, because advice can come from some places and should perhaps be, places that you may even not expect. But that's how the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, like you so right, man. I mean, because when you don't want to live, you don't want to hear that. I'm just being honest with you. You don't want to hear nothing nobody got to say when it comes to that. Cause this mine.
Yeah,
I.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I created this, so how they gonna tell me how to do this? They don't know what I'm. That ain't in my mind. They don't know what I'm. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Well, really, they've really taken an even better, because they're looking at it from a consumer standpoint as well as a person that generally wants to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
So and you don't get that. You don't get that. All you thinking is either they buttoning your business or they just want to have something to say. You don't really take it as advice. You don't take it as that. You take it as they don't know what they're talking about. They ain't never been in food before. They don't know what they're talking about. But
Yeah.
and that's how we take it. But that was one of my biggest mess ups. You know what I mean? I really should have taken a mental note and really even just tried it. You know what I'm saying? Just to see.
And so I want to go to there's a comment that I can't post, but she said, as long as you're in your house, people don't fear you. But once you get into a building, there's a different type of envy that kicks in. Now,
Wow.
yeah. So one of the things, though, I want to say in response to that, because she's right. That's an excellent observation, because it does, like, Sam Walton started in a very little building, right? A little shack, if you will, like what people use as she sheds in their backyards. Sam Walton, literally the man who founded Walmart, right, started in a very small space, trying to create something in Bentonville, Arkansas, that to respond to the needs of his community for a general store. Don't you think Sam Walton had some folks say to him when he got that first big 16,000 square foot building, I'm not going there anymore, or I don't want to support him anymore. So we've got to get out of the habit. And when I say we, that's all of us who are viewing, all of us who are listening, all of us across the state of Alabama, across this country. We've got to get out of the habit of feeling like everything is a competition. Now, competition can be a great thing. It is a good thing. It really actually can help us be better, right? But when you take on the stance that this is competition to the point that I don't even want to support that person or that business, that now creates a situation where communities can't grow. We remain stagnant. It's almost like we are for lack of a better reference, like we're sitting on a plantation waiting for things to change, and when the people are trying to change it, it's like, but I don't really. I'm good with what I have, with the scraps I have. We don't really need a change, right? But that's clearly not the case. There are enough of us, I do believe, that are willing to do things differently, that are willing to step out, that are excited.
I gotta, I love you, but I got a conference call. Yeah, I gotta be on it at 11 o'clock today. Manager call. Man, listen, I had so much fun. I had a great
Yes,
time through the
absolutely.
day. I hope that someone will take a look at this today and really,
Yeah.
especially the new entrepreneurs that are out there now that are grinding. I love it, man. I love to
Absolutely.
see like new people jump on the scene and do their thing. Brenda is out there. Wallace killing it right now. You
Yes.
got Gabrielle that's out there with the food truck, killing
Yep.
it right. Like I get super excited when I see stuff like that.
Mhm.
And if they're watching it, if they're listening to this, I hope that they take some of the things that were mentioned today and kind of be do those things, because at the end of the day, man, I want to see everybody win. You know what I mean? Even though I failed on my attempt, but I feel like God is gonna do it again, and that I'm not gonna be no hater. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna do that. I want to see people win. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's the thing. But thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out with you. I've always wanted to hang out with you on these shows. I just, I was feeling kind of salty because I ain't never get asked. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm feeling real salty, but look,
Listen, and I'm glad that you were able to take time out today to share space. Thank you to everyone who is tuned in, whether you are listening on WBFZ or whether you are logged in live watching the show. Thank you for sharing this opportunity with us. And then I did have a question about having some small business owners, folks who are like running restaurants like Laney's and Hancock's, about brick and mortar and being successful. The answer to your question is yes. So yes, we definitely want to share various perspectives. We, as a matter of fact, TRHT Selma is working towards having a roundtable. Just like we started the Selma Dallas County Tourism Roundtable, we want to bring restaurant owners together who are willing to talk about the things, the challenges and the successes. Let's get it together so that once we, like you said, you want to see everybody win. When one person wins in Selma, Selma wins.
that's
And
right.
that's all we want to do. We want to transform our community, one business, one person, one family at a time. So thank you, Mr. Johnson, for sharing space with us. Thank you for everyone who is tuned in. And we are excited that, yes, we have kicked off our fall season of Wealth Building Wednesday. Tune in next Wednesday, right here, every single Wednesday, 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Enjoyed you. And look, don't miss your conference call.
I gotta get on it. Thank you, babe. Appreciate you now.
All right. Talk to you soon.